Okay, today we're going to start on Chaf Hayam Beis. Amar Abaya. It's the first of the white lines. If you have a traditional Gemara. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. It's supposed to be learning. Learning also for Shlema, for my father, Naftali ben Menachem Bela. Okay. We had a machlekes between Rav and Shmuel, and the machlekes was regarding even though we hold that we're talking about a shvua, even though a shvua in the pasuk it says lahara lehetiv, that a person is going to say in the future I will eat or I will not eat, and then he violates it, he does the opposite. He's going to be chayav a carbon oila b'yored, right? Carbon oila b'yored. But according to machlekes now, Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, what about the past tense? If he says I did eat or I did not eat, even in the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, nevertheless, who holds that a past tense shvua is chayav, but the past tense shvua might have to be able to be switched to a future tense. If it can't be flipped, if it can't go both ways, then Shmuel says that you're pater. You're chayav on a past tense shvua, but that past tense shvua only if it could be switched to. So the example that we had before, if someone says someone threw a pebble into the sea, Rav says he's chayav because it's past tense shvua. It's perfect. Past tense shvua is chayav. Shmuel says he's pater. Why is he pater? Because that past tense shvua can't be switched for a future tense, because he can't say someone will, because that's not biyadei. It's not something that he's able to do. He can't say someone else will. Shvua would have to be something that he's able to fulfill. Okay. Now Abaya says Maida Rav, even though Rav always says that a person's chayav for a past tense, however,
you can basically take shvua from someone else.
who can nullify it for someone else? Yeah, but yeah, those are special cases. Okay. Amar Abaya, Maida Rav would agree that even though the past tense shvua would be chayiv, even if it can't be switched. However, but if someone tells his friend, shvua she'ani yedei lecha eidos, I'm taking an oath that I know testimony for you. Turns out that he doesn't know testimony. The says the pater hayol v'lesa b'chlal she'ini yedei lecha eidos. They really throw you into a complication, like first line of our Gemara. The Gemara should start off slowly. He's into this. What the Gemara is saying is that there's two types of oaths that would require, if they're violated, or if they become false, that would incur the punishment of the carbon oila b'yored, the sacrifice that's the sliding scale, depending on how it is well. Now, one of them is a shvuas bita, which is what we've been talking about. He says, I will eat, I will not eat. I did eat, I did not eat, right? The other one is shvuas eidos. Shvuas eidos has the same punishment if he violates it. Shvuas eidos is when someone in court, eligible to testify, they say, do you know anything about this case? Do you have any testimony about this case? Did you see the event? And he lies. He says no. Then he's chayiv the carbon. But the shvuas eidos only works on someone that's in court and he's eligible to testify. If he's not eligible to testify because he's a relative or pasul eidos, whatever, and it's not in court, and they tell him, did you see testimony? and he says no, and he lies, he's not chayiv. It's a special halacha. Shavuos Eidus only works as a, and so it's interesting. It's similar to Shavuos Bitoy because it's also an oath, but it's Shavuos Eidus. So now this person is taking an oath that I do no testimony for you. It turns out that he was lying. So we say he's pater. Why is he pater? He lied. It's a regular. It's like it's like saying I did eat or I did not eat, right? Because if you flip it from positive to negative, I do not know testimony. Now he's violating the oath of Shavuos Eidus, which is a different oath. So what he's saying is that if when it's flipped, this one more detail here that I have to emphasize is that Rav goes easy on if it's a past tense oath, even if it can't be flipped to the future. Rav is easy on that. He says it's still chayiv, but he doesn't go easy on if it can't be flipped from positive to negative. It has to be able to be flipped from positive to negative. So here, when he's taking the positive oath, I do know testimony. If that were to flip to negative, I do not know testimony, then that would go under a different category of oath called Shavuos Eidus. So since under the category of Shavuos Bitoy, it won't be obligated. So therefore, if when it's flipped, so therefore, even before it's flipped, it's doesn't go under the category of Shavuos Bitoy. It has to be able to be a Shavuos Bitoy, that false oath, on positive and negative, right? Yeah. Okay, now we have a few more examples of similar type things. He says, Yadati v'lo yadati. Let's say he says, I knew or I did not know. I knew or I did not know. Now, Taisus points out that we're not dealing with Shavuos Eidus here. I did not know testimony, but it's not something in court. It's not because we need the testimony. He just took an oath like this. Now, the problem is that if he would try to say that in the future, I will know or I will not know. So that's impossible because he can't, it's not up to him to know if he's going to have any testimony. It's not up to him. If it's not in his yada, it's not up to him to choose that. If he's going to see something happen, he's gonna see it. So therefore, because it can't flip to the future, so then machlekes, that takes us back to the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel, where Rav says it doesn't need to be able to flip to the future, and Shmuel says it does. That's machlekes. There's a lot of in like one word here, there's a lot of background that needs to be explained.
Here, when it says, just, I think of the information.
Yeah.
But then how does he know that the other person doesn't know the information?
No, he's not testifying about the other person.
No, but he's telling the other person, oh, I have like a testimony.
Yeah.
But how does he know that the other person doesn't know that?
And we're talking about because the other person is one that lent the money or part of the money or something, and they're bringing this person to court, administering an oath, and say, "Tell us what you know about this, because you were at the scene or something." He says, "I don't know anything." He lies about it. Right? That would be Shavuos Eidus. They're what do they call it when they bring someone to court? They subpoena. This is a subpoena. Yadati, below yadati. I testified or I did not testify. All of that is past tense. What would happen if you would try to say that in the future tense? That would say, I will testify or I will not testify. Now, I will testify is an oath that's fulfilling a mitzvah. Someone knows testimony, he has to testify. So taking an oath to fulfill the mitzvah, he said, according to the Rabbanon, we had a machlekes before Rabbi Debem saying the Rabbanon. According to the Rabbanon, that's not considered an oath. Okay, not taking an oath to violate a mitzvah, according to everyone, is not an oath. So this cannot be flipped to the future. Can't be flipped to the future. It's a machlekes Rab and Shmuel. So it's machlekes. Okay, now. All good. Bishleim l'Shmuel damar milsid lesababa lemachayv l'shavar lafki lahachi afki rachmana l'shvos edus mechlal shvos bita. L'Rav my health afki rachmana. Okay, Gemara doesn't let us go over here. It comes at us with another complication. It goes like this. When a person says that I know testimony, let's do it the other way. He says, I do not know testimony. Okay. Person says, I do not know testimony. Could that be flipped for a future tense? I will not know testimony. I do not, which means I did not, right? Or it's not in his control, so he can't make a shvuah like that. So, according to Shmuel, so therefore, you see, when it came to the laws of shvuas bitoi, there's a certain sacrifice. But then the Gemara, the Torah, in the Psukim, it also has the shvuas edus. Now, why does it divide the two? If the laws were the same, then it wouldn't divide the two. It would be the same thing. If a person swears, so because according to Shmuel, when it comes to the laws of shvuas bitoi, there's some strict, regulations on that qualifications that it's only if it could go from past tense to future tense. But if it can't go to a future tense, so then you're going to be pater. So therefore, the Torah tells me shvos edus in a separate section, because over there, even though I do not know testimony, cannot switch for I will not know testimony, but you still chayav, because shvos edus is different than shvos bitoi. That's why the Torah wrote it separate. But according to Rav, that says that even a shvuas bitoi does not have to be able to flip to the future. So why do I need to have a separate law, separate paragraph about shvuas edus? It's the same halacha. Say it's a shvuas bitoi. He'll be chayav because of shvuas bitoi. Why does he have to be? What happens if he violates? Brings a carbon. So he's shvuas edus. He brings a carbon. Why do I need a special halacha about shvuas edus if he's going to have that same punishment? According to Shmuel, if it's a shvuas bitoi, he won't have the punishment. It needs to be a shvuas edus. So the Torah tells me shvuas edus. But according to Rav, it's not necessary the shvuas edus because the law is the same. Okay. El Rav, my health after Rachmana. Why did the Torah take it out from the category of shvuas bitoi? Right? Why did the Torah have to take it out? It's good as it is. Well, Amrur Rabbanan Kamed Abaya. Sages presented a possible teretz to this in front of Abaya. And they said, Lachiva Latarti wants to make him chayav two things. Yeah? Wants to make him chayav two things. Wants to make him chayav for shvuas bitoi and also for shvuas edus. Yeah, he'd only be chayav for shvuas edus if he's in court and he's eligible to testify. But at that point, he'd be chayav twice. Yeah, he'd be chayav because he violated the shvuas bitoi. He said that I do not know testimony, and he does. He also edus because of Amar Lahu. He says back to them, to the sages, to his students. This is Abaya. It says Tarti limits. Somebody said that's not a good teretz. You can't say that answer. The Tani, because we have a brisa. It says Lachas Miela says that someone will commit one of these sins that he has to bring that carbon for. It says you can only make him obligated for one, not for two. The pasuk says la'achas for one. He's guilty for one of these sins. He's only going to have that extra word la'achas is coming to teach me that he only has to bring one sacrifice. So therefore, the question goes back on Rav. Why does it need to say the special category of shvuas edus? And the same thing would apply if it's shvuas bitoi. And it can answer because it's chayiv too, because they have a pasuk lachas. It says it's only chayiv one. Ulabaya, my hilchsaf kirachmana. And according to Abaya, that just rejected the teretz on the problem with Rav, how would Abaya answer Rav? Well, look at the Tanya, as we're starting the Brisa. B'kulan nemer v'nelam. In all the cases, it says v'nelam. We mentioned this yesterday. The Shavuos Bita have to be by mistake. But the Shavuos Bita can also be on purpose. Usually by sacrifices, it's always unintentional. If it's intentional, you get the more severe punishment. All the sacrifices were all unintentional. What's by Shavuos Bita? It says by all of those cases, but we have carbon oil of year, it says vanilla. The Khan, but by Shavuos Eidos, when he's in court and he testifies and he swears that he doesn't know testimony, never vanilla. It doesn't say the word vanilla and it was concealed from him. The reason why it doesn't say that is because it doesn't need to be concealed from him. It doesn't need to be a mistake. He's going to be chayav in court, even if he's going to be chayav that punishment also on purpose. If it's intentional. He knows testimony and he lies about it, he's still going to be chayav the carbon. L'chayav ala mezid k'shegig, that is going to be chayav if it's intentional, just like if it's a shegig. Okay, so now special halacha. Now, what is the Gemara answering? Gemara's answering is that we had a question: why, according to Rav, does it need to say a separate paragraph for Shavuos Eidos when that paragraph is that when we could have been satisfied with the Shavuos Bita? Because according to Rav, it didn't matter if it was past that could be flipped for future. So we could have gotten away with one paragraph in the Torah. We didn't need the special Shavuos Eidos. So comes along Abaya and answers according to Rav, we need Shavuos Eidos to tell me that you're chayev, even if it wasn't concealed from him, even if it's a mezit. Special halacha of Shavuos Eidos. That's why it's unique. That's why it's okay. Now, this answers the question that we had yesterday, that when it came to Shavuos Bita, you won't be chayev if it's b'mezit. It's only b'shegig. You have to have made a mistake about it. You have to have forgotten that he took the oath or something, and then I can't believe I ate. I said I wasn't going to, and right, and then that's when he's going to bring the carbon. Okay, Amar lahu. No, where are we? Amar lahu, yeah. Amar le Rabbanan Abaya. So the Rabbanan said back to Abaya, Ema b'mezid mechayev chada, b'shegeg mechayev tarti. Okay, so b'mezid, because you're going to be chayev b'mezid even by Shavuos Eidos, so maybe it's going to work like this: that b'mezid you'll be chayev only once because that's only Shavuos Eidos, but b'shegeg you're going to be chayev because of Shavuos Bita. You know, so if it's unintentional, then you have the category of Shavuos Bita and Shavuos Eidos. Amar lahu, Abaya says back, Lav hayna damri la'achas. What are you doing? I already answered you that when it says la'achas, achas atam mechayev shtayim. You can't be chayev to. They say, well, maybe la'achas is going on mezid. It says be b'mezid mi'akatarti, but I don't need a pasuk for that because b'mezid you're only going to have one anyway. So the pasuk must be telling me that b'shogig you only chayev one, not two. Okay. That's Abaya's answer according to Rav. Why do I need this special paragraph of Shavuos Eidos to tell me that mezid is different? Rav Amar, Rav says, okay, this is Rav says that the word me'achas is not coming to teach me what Abaya said it was coming. Abaya says me'achas is teaching me that you only chayev one carbon, even though you violated two laws. Because one of those laws, he says that according to Abaya, you violated two laws, Shavuos Bita and Shavuos Eidos. But the pasuk tells me there's only one carbon, achas. Rava says that achas is not teaching me that. Achas is teaching me that if someone takes an oath that he's not going to eat wheat bread, barley bread, spelt bread, and he eats them all, he's only going to be chayiv one carbon. Why isn't it telling me that chayiv two karbanos for edus and bitui? It says that once the Torah, you see, edus was included in bitui. It didn't have to specify it. Mishum david davar shebechlal. It was included in the general category of a false oath, right? It is a false oath. Why do you have to specify that it's a testimony, false oath of testimony? It's coming to tell me special halachas, that this false oath is only going to be in Bezdin by someone that's eligible to testify. It's only going to have its halacha, which means you're only going to be chayiv for Shavuos Edus and nothing else. So according to Rava, I don't need a me'achas to teach me that really you should be chayiv two here. Because just the fact that it was taken out of the general rule, that automatically tells me that this is unique. It's only one. Okay, now, the Gemara now, based on what Rava just said, we just realized that according to Abaya, someone violates, someone lies about testimony, he's violated two halachas. He violated the false oath of testimony. He also violated the false oath, the Shavuos Pita. Mechlal, the Abaya Savar, Isel the Shvua Boilam. Abaya says, from the fact that I needed the pasuk me'achas to teach me that you only have to bring one sacrifice, that would mean that really you violated two prohibitions. It's just one sacrifice that you bring, but that would tell me that you violated the Shavuos Pita, even when you took an oath of testimony. All right. It says, 1 second, take us back to what we said originally. The first point that we made today. First point that we made today was that Abaya says that Rav would agree that if someone says he takes an oath that I know testimony, Rav would agree that you're going to be pater, even though he lies. He really doesn't know. He says that he doesn't. The reason is because you can't flip it for I don't know testimony, because once you flip it, what category does it go under? Not Shavuos Pita, it goes under Shavuos Edus. And since, even though Rav says it doesn't need to be able to be flipped from past to future, but it doesn't need to be able to be flipped from positive to negative. And since when it's flipped to negative, if it goes under a different category, it goes under the category of Shavuos Edus, that's not considered that it's flipped, because it won't be under the same category. The Gemara asks, yeah, but you just told me that Abaya says that even if a false oath of testimony is also Shavuos Pita, you just only bring one sacrifice. Now you're telling me that it's not a Shavuos Pita, it's only a Shavuos Edus. Gemara says, it's a good question. Based on this, Abaya must have retracted from that. The Meidarav. Abaya retracted from the Meidarav. That first complicated halacha that we brought in here doesn't make it true till the end. Abaya retracted. Ibaya Seima. Well, we could say Chadaminai Rav Papa Amra. One of these statements was said by Rav Papa. Now this is a very interesting Gemara because Tosfos over here says Chadaminai Rav Papa Amra the Malach Basar Abaya v'Rava. Rav Papa was the Rosh Hashiva after Abaya and Rava. And there are times that the students didn't know if he was saying it on his own or if he was saying it in the name of his teacher. So when we said Abaya said this and we said Abaya said that, we were thinking that Abaya said it, but really it was Rav Papa that said one of them. Which one, we don't know. But it wasn't because to resolve the contradiction between two statements of Abaya, say that one of them was said by Rav Papa. Yeah, like a historical Gemara explains that sometimes the Gemara says Amar Rava v'itema Rav Papa. Rava said it, and some say Rav Papa said it. Now we understand why, because they didn't know who in the name of. So I say that a lot of times Rabbi Chadakov would give messages over to people, and people didn't know if the Rebbe was saying that or if Rabbi Chadakov was saying that. Because it was, it was very confusing. A lot of times people said, Rabbi Chadakov told me, and he said, but I think it was the Rebbe's message. He didn't say who it was coming from. Okay. No, just Rav Papa was close to Abaya and Rava. And when he would say things, it wasn't so obvious if it was his own thing or if it was from his teacher. It's like when Rabbi Marla says it about Torah, sure, you don't always know if it's a sicha or if it's something that, a thought. Right? Rabbi Shmuel Leimer, Enechayev ala Asid Lavi. Okay, the Gemara lightens up a little bit. We had a machlekes before Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, and this was in the Mishnah, right? If an oath that's a past tense oath, if that's going to be chayav. Tana Rabbanan. We have a brisa that elaborates a little bit more. La'ara lehetiv. The pasuk says, if someone takes an oath to his detriment or to his betterment, yeah. I would only think that an oath that's violated, that he's going to have to bring the sacrifices only if it's to his detriment or to his betterment. How do I know that the same thing is going to be if it's not for his detriment or his betterment? I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to whatever. It's nothing to do with fasting or eating or something like that. Talmud Laimar, pasuk says, says a soul that will take an oath to express with the lips. Okay. I only know that if this is a future oath, future tense oath, it says I will, or I will not. How do we know past tense as well? Anything that the person expresses with an oath. Rabbi Kiva, that's Rabbi Kiva's teaching. So Rabbi Kiva's words that a past tense oath is learned from l'kol asher yivate ha'adam, for anything that the person expresses. Rabbi Shmuel says, he argues with Rabbi Kiva, says l'ra lehetiv, says for his betterment to his detriment. That's referring to lahaba, future tense. Amalei Rabbi Kiva says, Imkain, if you're going to read that literally, then you're only going to have, which he's doing, he's saying that it's only a future tense, then you're also going to restrict it to only things that are literally for his betterment or to his detriment. How do we know that the same thing would apply to things that are not for his betterment or detriment? He says to him, the pasuk says, lakol, and then adds in for anything that he expresses, which is coming to include even something that's not to his betterment or detriment. It's an oath, doesn't matter. So what does it mean? It just means positive or negative. I will or I will not. But it doesn't have to do with his betterment or detriment. Amalai, Rabbi Kiva says to him, if you're telling me that lakal is coming to be inclusive, then let it also include past tense, which is what Rabbi Kiva says it includes. So now we have a machlekes, what the word lakal is coming to do. Is it coming to include past tense, which is what Rabbi Akiva says, or is lakal coming to tell me even things that are not for his betterment or detriment, which is what Rabbi Shmuel says. But a past tense is going to be exempt. Where it says Shaper Kamar Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Kiva responded well to Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yochanan, the Amira comes in and he says, Rabbi Shmuel, Shashimir says Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. Rabbi Shmuel, he was a student of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. What do we have from Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana? Yeah, who made Alakai Netzar? That prayer. Is that Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana? I think there's a few prayers. Who made? Oh yeah, who made Ana B'Kayach? Is that Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana?
Yeah, Ana B'Kayach.
So Rabbi Shmuel was a student of Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. he studied the whole Torah. Whenever there was a general and a specific, he said that the general was the general. And and when you have three words, one says all, one says specifically, and one says back to everything. So then he says that the specific is the detail of the general, which is limiting the general down to this. And why do we have one afterwards? The klal afterwards is coming to be more inclusive. So it goes like this. So because Rabbi Nachani ben Akana would darshan the klal prat, so Yanami darsh b'klal prat. He does also klal prat. Rabbi Akiva sheshimish es Nachamish Gamzu. Rabbi Akiva was a student of Nachamish Gamzu, and Shahaya Darish Eskalatera Kula Beribo Miat. He would learn the whole Torah with Riba Miat, with what is it called? Amplification and limitation. So Yanami Darish Riba Miat. So that's why Rabbi Akiva also does the amplification and limitation. My Rabbi Akiva the Darish Riba Miat, or maybe my Rabbi Akiva Darish Miat the Tanya. Yeah, I'm not sure where to put the question mark. But okay, so we're going to explain first Rabbi Akiva, who was mentioned second, and then we'll go back to Rabbi Shmuel. I want to remember, I guess, Chaim, we can remember this because Daf Chavav 26, we'll remember Rabbi Nachani ben Akana, even though it's a different shame. But it's good enough for the memory, it should help. Okay. My Rabbi Kiva Darshan Ribimit. What is this? How does Rabbi Kiva do this? That he darshans amplification and specification and limitation. The Tanya was studied in a brisa nefesh kisisava. The brisa teaches the pasuk, quotes the pasuk, or a soul that will take an oath. Okay, it doesn't say what type of oath. Riba. That's the amplification. La ra lehetiv. Very specific now. Limitation. Right? For the detriment or for his betterment. Miyat, that's a limitation. To anything that the person expresses, plus of riba, that's back in amplification. The way this works is riba, miyat, riba. If I have amplification, limitation, and then amplification, riba kol, it's coming to include everything. So then why did you have my riba? What's it including? Riba kol mili, oath about anything. So my miyat, why do you have the limitation? It says, okay, well, you're right, we'll limit something. Miyat var mitzvah. Take away, if someone takes an oath to violate a Torah law, I'm not going to eat matzah in Pesach, so then it's not going to work, right? That's the we're mamayat something because we had a limitation there. So the limitation has to limit something. What are we limiting? That one detail. Rabbi Shmuel, the Darsh Klal Prat, Rabbi Shmuel does it differently. Shmuel says there's a general and a specific. We have a rule that the general is specific. The only thing in the general is what's included in the specific. Then we add another general rule afterwards, so we include more things, but we're still limiting it much more than Riba Miyat. Goes like this. My riba, and I'm sorry. There's a klal. I nefesh or a soul kisi shava that swears lavatis v'sayim expression of the lips. Klal. That's a generalization. The ra lehetiv for his betterment to his detriment. That's prat. That's a specific. Kol sheyivati adam. Anything that the person expresses. This is further in the pasuk. That's chazor klal. That's coming back to the generalization. Klal prat klal. When I have this klal prat klal, the generalization, specification, and generalization, yatadan kana prat. Then in the generalization is only going to be what's similar to what's specific. Ma prat mafurish lahaba. Just like the generalization is future tense. I'm sorry. Just like the specification is future tense. Afkol abba. Everything is also future tense. Because of this, because Rabbi Shmuel looks at it slightly different than Rabbi Akiva. So that's why he comes out without oaths that are past tense being included in this category. Hani klala, the generalization helped. Even if it's not specifically to his betterment to his detriment. The generalization would include that. Ani prata, And what does the specification do? The mute that excludes even things that are to his betterment, to his judgment, but they're past tense. That's Rabbi Shmuel. Where says Eipachana, maybe we should say the opposite. Maybe we should include the past and exclude things that aren't that aren't betterment to detriment. Rabbi Yitzchak, we want to be similar to L'Ra L'Heitev. Mishi Suri Mishim Bal Yachal Devari, Yatzazu Sheni Suri Mishim Bal Yachal Devari El Mishim Bal Teshakro. We want to have that it goes under the category of a person should not profane his words. And that would be if someone takes an oath and then he doesn't keep it. But if someone takes an oath about something that happened in the past, that's not profaning his words. That's just a lie. Profaning his words is when he takes an oath what he's going to do and then he doesn't fulfill it. You say, okay, you profaned your words. You didn't fulfill what your words said that you would do. That's bal yachal dvarim. So that's why we wanted it to be just a future tense. That was the opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rabban says, Amar kra'in nefesh kishishav levatzis v'asayim. Or so we learn from the pasuk. We're answering the question over here. How do we know that it's future tense that's we're including, and we're excluding past tense? Maybe we're including things that aren't to his betterment, to his detriment. Maybe we should be excluding things that aren't to his betterment, to his detriment, and we should be including past tense. So that's what Rabbi Yitzchak answered. It says, no, we're looking for future tense because Bal Yachal Devari to include. And Rabbi Yitzchak bar Rabban says we're looking to include future tense because the pasuk says, Misha Shvua Kedemes Labitay. We're looking for an oath that comes before the expression, which means the action. We're not looking for an action that came before the oath. This is coming to exclude. Someone says, I ate or I did not eat. That the action came before the oath. That's very cool. Okay, Tana Rabbanan started in a braysa. We have the pasuk over here says, anything that the person expresses in an oath and it's concealed from him, and so I'll have to bring the sacrifice. Well, when it says ha'adam b'shvua prat lanus, he has to be a man that took an oath, excluding someone that didn't have control. It was against his will, right? It was unpreventable circumstance. B'ne'alam, then the pasuk goes on. It says, and it's concealed. Prat lamezid, it's coming to exclude someone that intentionally lies. Mimenu says from him. Shenesal mimenu shvua, he forgot the oath. Yachol shenesal mimenu chayfet. He has to, in other words, when he violates the oath, he had to have forgotten it.
You have it translated as
a person, as opposed to I said a man.
I didn't know.
Okay.
Women words.
No, it applies also to women. So it applies to women. I just said a man, but you're right.
I was wondering if it was this.
No. Adam is as a person. Okay. Maybe it's not talking about forgetting the oath, but it's forgetting about the object that the oath was taken upon. He has to forget about it, has to be concealed from the oath, not the object of the oath. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain this. I'm not getting into it. The Gemara is going to elaborate. Amar Mar, the master taught, which means we're re-examining the brisa that we just quoted. It says, Adam b'shvua, not a man, a person that in an oath, right? Prat lanas is coming to exclude someone that's beyond his control. What's the case that's beyond his control? Gemara says, Could Rav Kana Ravasi, like Rav Kana Ravasi, these are two students of Rav, when they were by Rav, when they got up from Rav. When they rose. When they rose from Rav. He once said, I swear this is what Rav said. Mara Meshvusa Dachim Rav. The other one said, I swear this is what Rav says. Yasal Kami de Rav, they come to Rav. Amar Kechad Minai, Rav said, I know, I said like one of you. So what about the other one? Amar Leidach, Vana B'Shikrish Tabai, did I swear falsely? Amar Le, so Rav said, Liba Chansach. It's not your fault. Your heart made it beyond your control. You said what you thought you heard. Okay. Liba Chansach. Okay, what are we learning from that? That he was an einus. He wasn't swearing. This is very difficult. The Gemara is going to mention soon, but this is very difficult because wait, you tell me that it needs to be a shaygig, needs to be a mistake, unintentional. It's exactly what he did, unintentional. He's just calling it an einus beyond his control. But what? So, how do you differentiate when it comes to an oath between forgetting and misunderstanding?
Because here, like, you wholeheartedly.
Perfect. Wholeheartedly. What does that mean? It's unintentional. Unintentional is chayav. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. It's just there's got to be something here, but the Gemara is going to mention it. So, it's concealed from him. That means that he forgets the oath. Talking about when he violates the oath. Maybe he forgets the object. It's only if he forgets the oath when he does it. That's when he has to bring the sacrifice. Not if he forgets the object. It's Israel, they laughed at this price. I can have an oath that he forgets, but he doesn't forget the object. Going to Amar, he takes an oath, I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to eat wheat bread. And he thinks that he took an oath that he will eat. Slight difference, yes or no. But he knew. I knew I took an oath about wheat bread. The Shavuos inshi. It's possible that a person forgets the yes or the no, but but he remembers the object. Yeah, it's like some psychology. Yeah, person remembers object, he forgets if it was yes or no.
Remember your keys. Just don't remember.
Yeah. More like someone says, like you see someone that you heard something about the person and you like, tell me what happened with you. Something, I heard something. Did you get a new job? Did you move? Like what happened? I know I remember you, but I can't remember the detail. That's what he's saying over here. I remember something about wheat bread. I just can't remember if I said I will eat it or I will not eat it. Well, but when it comes to the object without the oath, how's that going to work? Okay, so we say like this. He takes an oath that he's not going to eat wheat bread. And he thinks that he said, I'm not going to eat barley bread. The Shavuos Dacher remembers the oath. And Chefza, and the object, Inshi, he forgot. When asks, but given the Chefza, Inshi, since he forgot the object, Inshi lay, I know Helam Shua, that means he forgot the oath. If he doesn't remember that he took an oath about barley or wheat, and he thinks he took it about barley, that means he forgot the oath, not just forgot the object. Elam Rabbi Lazar, David Achasi. Rabbi Lazar says, this is Rabbi Lazar from Eretz Yisrael. Obviously, it's all the same, and you can't make this lima that only forgetting the oath and not the. Rabbi Lazar rejects this brisa. Maskefla Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef has a question. Says Alma chayfetz b'lei shvolei mishkachasla. What you're trying to say is that it's impossible to have an object without to have the object forgotten without the oath. But mishkachasla kein shvor shleichel paschitin. Let's say it is possible. Someone takes an oath, I'm not going to eat wheat bread. Puts his hand into the basket where there's different types of bagels, right? The mixed bagels and the everything bagel and the onion. He says, I'm not going to have the barley He says, I'm not going to have the wheat bagel. He puts his hand in to get the barley bagel. Also, biyad shalchitin, and what came up was the wheat one. Because Savar Sarmi, but he thinks it was the barley one. So now, the Shavuos Daf, he knows what the oath was. But he doesn't know the object that he's holding in his hand. So here it is possible to have, he forgot the object. The object is concealed from him. He thinks he's eating the barley. It turns out he's eating a wheat. And he remembers the oath. He thought the label went from one to another. Amalei Abaya says, Karban. Abaya, do you want him to be chayav a karban? Ella amay the toughest biyadei. How do they translate this? Abaya says, you're obligating him to bring an offering only for that which he held in his hand and ate. Elam shvu. This is an instance. This instance is a case of concealment of oath. The oath taker did not realize that the oath forbade him to eat that particular loaf. So Abai is telling him that he forgot the object, but that means that it's a concealment of the oath. It's still considered a concealment of oath. Lishnachrina, there's another verse. Let me just read it from here. Amalei Abai Rav Yosef. Abai says to Rav Yosef, "Saif carbon kamaisi Allah the high pass. Miya selam shvuhu." The fact is that when he brings a sacrifice, it's for the loaf that he ate, which is a concealment of the oath. There's a concealment of the oath. He remembered his oath, but he did not realize that the oath applied to this particular loaf. This is also it's a concealment of the oath. Okay, and Rabbi Yosef Amalach, Rabbi Yosef says back, since if he had realized that it was wheat, he would have not eaten it. So Helam Chayfetzu. The only reason why he ate it was not because he forgot the oath. The reason why he ate it was because he forgot that it was because he didn't realize that it was wheat. Okay. Now let's leave it right here. Rav Tabai Minei, Rava Mirav Nachman. That means Rav asked Rav Nachman the following question.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.